afternoon, everyone. We actually finished the morning session with a provocation to think about what we're grateful for. And I'd like to say that I'm grateful to Fernando Pinto, whom I met over lunch. And when I asked him whereabouts I might go for my walk to get some fresh air, he said, "Oh, I'll come with you." And we ended up going up the Lavra tram, up to the top to the Penna area, and then walking down the steps through the gardens and back here. So I think that's symptomatic of the generosity of spirit that I've found here in Lisbon. So I've got a quick video now which will introduce some of our work in Belfast. This video has two parts. The first part of that took place on the day of filming for the project. And then after that, there is an extended TikTok video, which will show you the Heritage Lab, which Andrea talked about earlier, where we unveiled and launched not only the project, but also our company. So I'll start that now.
My name is Dafydd Hall-Williams. I'm from UTO, and we're working in partnership with Eastside Partnership and White Pot Studios. So our project is called the Yardman's Trail AR Stories. And that title comes from a historic route which connects the Maritime Mile to locations in East Belfast where dock workers used to live and work. It's a really important project for us because it allows us to bring the technology that we've developed and harness that to bring stories to life in really new and imaginative ways. And together we're going to be bringing holograms to life in certain locations. So someone will come to a location, scan a code, which will open up the camera on their phone, and then we're able to place a storyteller as if they're in the same room, which you view through your phone. So we're using volumetric capture in this process, and that in itself is quite an innovative form of filmmaking. As well as including local storytellers as the subjects of this project, we're delighted to be running community development projects alongside it. So we're running workshops with local community groups where they will see the stories that we're filming here today and be able to share their experiences of those locations, the sights and sound and contexts of those pieces, but also importantly, inform this project and how it evolves. So they'll discuss how we might think about animating these pieces, and we will be recording all of that data so that we can use that as inspiration in the post-production phase of our work. And it's a wonderful way to bring the thoughts and inspirations of the community into our project.
So there at the end you saw the final result of the project, which is a volumetrically captured storyteller talking about their life and experience of the Yardman's Trail and their place on it. Yardman's Trail is a historic route which links East Belfast, where lots of dock workers would have worked, and the Maritime Mile, where the Titanic was built. Now that's a really important heritage trail. It existed before our project, but our project was created in partnership with an organization called the Eastside Partnership, to connect those two areas through these storytellers. And so community development and integration was a part of not only the creation of it through our community co-development activities, but also in terms of the people themselves who are presenting their stories. So we actually were issued the co-design document, which Andrea talked about earlier, at the very start of applications. We decided that we wanted to approach Eastside Partnership as our partners because they would have access to the communities that we wanted to work with, and we decided that we didn't have the resources on our own to access them. Then we went through a pitching process to make sure that the grant was in line with the objectives of Belfast City Council and the Maritime Mile. In Belfast in particular, there's an emphasis on technology. So the director of Future Screens NI, Professor Paul Moore, says that within Belfast, the creative industries are the new heavy industries. And it is really a spot of innovation within technology. And even within the application process, there was a requirement that AI played a part in each of the projects. And so each of the 6 projects, in very different ways, had that as an inclusive element. And we'll talk about how we actually achieve that in a bit, because we're talking about a new pipeline for creating these types of assets. So once we started the project, we had to identify 3 storytellers, each of which would eventually take place in a location along this Yardman's Trail. Now, Eastside Partnership was able to identify 2 storytellers for us. Ronnie Jones, who is a swimmer, who is now 85 but competed in the 1959 Commonwealth Games in Cardiff. Kathleen Robertson, who is from a small Catholic area in East Belfast, and East Belfast is a predominantly Protestant area. Now, her story was very interesting because we didn't set out to create a piece which involved anything about the Troubles. Now, obviously, that's a big part of any narrative or any exploration of Belfast, but we decided we didn't want to go down that avenue in a way which was in any way forced. However, out of her story comes this experience of going to these Victorian baths when she was a young child, but then the effects of infrastructure during the Troubles, meaning that she could no longer access that public space, and the impact that that had on her. And then eventually the fact that now that we're in this post-agreement world, we're able to access this site again, and this site has now been renovated as a swimming pool and heritage area. But we were struggling to find one for the Maritime Mile. So I went on an open Facebook group, which is an appreciation site for the Harland and Wolff Samson and Goliath cranes. And there was some beautiful images being put up there by an artist called Colin H. Davidson. So I just sent him a direct message over Facebook and said, would you like to get involved in the project? It turns out that he was commissioned by the Titanic Hotel to paint images which are in the drawing room within which the Titanic was made, which is now a bar area in the hotel. So an absolutely ideal subject, not only because of that, but also he was a dock worker in Harland and Wolff in a previous life. So absolutely struck gold on that one. Now, we then undertook a new process for creating these volumetric captures. When I say volumetric capture, usually what that means is you surround a subject by cameras and you film them. You create an asset from that, which you then use a game engine to bring into augmented reality. 2 minutes left. Okay, great. So we used a new pipeline. We used AI so that we could film someone using a 2D camera. We sent it over to a company in Dublin, and they sent us back a 3D version of that person, and it guessed the back of it. Now, later on, you'll have a chance in the cocktails area. I'll have the iPad out if you want to try out. You can have a look at how well the AI, and how not well in some cases, has guessed the back of the person. We were then able to deploy it and launch it at the Maritime Mile and Heritage Lab. And in between that, the last thing I'll show you is our co-creation. So we had a session with some residents within East Belfast where this took place after we'd done the filming session, but before post-production. So we were able to talk about each of the stories, not only that, but actually show them the recordings before they'd been processed, so we could gather their feedback and understand their thoughts on the project, because obviously it's crucial that we're not misrepresenting any of the stories or people involved. And I think a testament that we were successful in that is that during the testing phase with test users, they were asked to describe any negative changes that resulted for you from your engagement with the project. And 100% of them, the testers said none. So there was no negative impact from the project. And that's absolutely crucial, because we always have to be sensitive, particularly in Belfast, given the particular circumstances of the city, to make sure that we bring everyone on board with us when we're talking about heritage. That's probably my 2 minutes up. You will get a chance, if you'd like to ask any questions or try these out later. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you.